In Venezuela, the candidate for the Great Patriotic Poll, Nicolás Maduro, assured that the revolutionary forces are the only ones that can guarantee peace and stability in the country. In Nepal, a plane carrying 19 passengers crashed during takeoff, killing 18 people. In Palestine, Israeli occupation forces killed at least 11 people in different raids in the occupied West Bank. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, the candidate for the Great Patriotic Poll, Nicolás Maduro, assured that revolutionary forces are the only ones that can guarantee peace and stability in the country. Candidate Nicolás Maduro visited the people of Maracay in the state of Aragua, where he was received by the crowd awaiting his arrival, raising flags and banners as a token of their support before the presidential elections to be held on Sunday, July 28th. During this visit, the candidate of the Great Patriotic Poll assured that the map of Venezuela will be painted red, because today more than ever, the people will come out to defend their convictions and the project of the homeland. In this sense, the candidate for the Great Patriotic Poll assured that the extreme right only intends to privatize all the institutions and companies of the country, as well as to destroy Commander Hugo Chávez Frías' great munitions.
It is time to open the door to permanent peace. It is not time to improvise, new pretenders, new demagogies. It is not time to open the door to the monster of savage capitalism. To come and privatize everything to the people. Do you want a savage capitalist president to come and privatize education, privatize the right to education?
Capitalista, salvaje, y privatice la educación, privatice el derecho a la salud.
Privatize petroleum of Venezuela and give away the oil to the foreigners, privatize the right to housing, to eliminate and destroy the missions and great missions of Chávez.
Que eliminen y destruyan las misiones y grandes misiones.
During his visit to Valencia in the state of Carabobo, the candidate for the Great Patriotic Poll qualified his great mobilization as the greatest mobilization in the history of the party, assuring that this was a sign of a great victory that will be achieved this coming July 28th. On the other hand, Nicolás Maduro said that if the far right tries once again to undermine the peace of the country by generating scenarios of violence in the presidential elections, this will be the last mistake they will make, affirming that he would be in charge of doing justice.
Porque Maracaibo hoy salió a la calle.
Because Maracaibo today took to the streets to tell the fascists, you in Venezuela will not pass.
Ustedes en Venezuela no pasarán.
And I say it from Valencia and I say it from Maracaibo, if you eat the light on Sunday you will regret it for 200 years, if you make a mistake to harm the people it will be the last mistake the fascists will make.
Por 200 años. Si cometen un error para hacerle daño al pueblo, será el último error que cometan los fascistas. Habrá justicia. Habrá dignidad.
There will be justice, there will be dignity. And I tell you, we are going to win very well. We have the strength, we have the power, we have the people, we have the 1 time 10 times 7.
We now go live to Caracas with our special envoy, Yunus on air. Hello, Yunus. What's the latest that you can tell us from Venezuela?
Hello, good afternoon from Caracas, Venezuela. Today is a special day here in Venezuela. It's a holiday because it is the 241st anniversary of the birth of Simón Bolívar, the great liberator and founder of Venezuela. And of course, for us here in teleSUR, it is also a birthday. It's our 19th birthday, and not by chance that it falls together with the great liberator's birthday here at the same date. So this day is a holiday. It's a free day for all employed people, but there is still important activities going on. First of all, there is the Plan Republica, the Republic Plan that has been set in motion with the deployment today, with the ceremony today officially, and with this deployment, according to official numbers, 388,000 soldiers will take service all over the country to provide security to voters, to provide security to voting centers, to ballot boxes. They will guarantee peace and stability during the voting process. This is, for those who don't know it, a usual measure. This is always done here in Venezuela since years, so it is not a reflection of a certain instability, but a fundamental character of the election schedule. And we also participated in the press conference of the Minister of Defense, who said repeatedly how the armed forces, how the National Bolivarian Armed Forces of Venezuela are looking to this job of protecting the ballot boxes and providing security to the citizens while casting their votes. Meanwhile, on the other side, the president of the National Election Council, Elvis Amoroso, made some statements. Amoroso said that he states a media campaign, an international Western media campaign, targeting Venezuela's electoral system, trying to discredit it. And Amoroso claimed that this campaign, this media campaign, is, I quote, paid with money robbed from the Venezuelan state. Hereby, Amoroso clearly refers to the sanctions and to frozen assets that Venezuela had abroad. So the government's plan is, the state's plan is functioning well. The soldiers are being deployed. The Plan Republica is in March, but we noticed that on Western media campaign, on Western media front, there is increasing attacks that come, of course, along with the opposition's rejection to sign an agreement with the other candidates, with the two oppositional candidates refused to sign the agreement to recognize the announcement of the National Election Council once the election has finished. So there is on Venezuelan side stability, but we see increasing attacks on media front from the western part of the world.
Thank you, Junius, for the latest information as always. Well, that was Yunus Tenor reporting live from Caracas on the latest development as we head for the Sunday elections in Venezuela. Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reported that the violence that plagues the east of the Democratic Republic of the Congo has suffered an upsurge in spite of the humanitarian truce in force until August the 3rd. The agency denounced that the constant attacks against civilians in Lubero, in the province of North Kivu, violate one of the points of the agreements of the cessation of hostilities, thus hindering the entry of humanitarian aid into the territory. According to the agency's reports, between March and early July, the escalating violence in the province has displaced some 390,000 people who are currently facing grave shelter, food, and sanitation needs. On Wednesday, a plane carrying 19 passengers crashed in Nepal, killing 18 people and leaving the pilot as the only survivor. In this regard, authorities confirmed that the accident occurred when the state-owned plane veered off the runway and crashed while trying to take off from Kathmandu International Airport. In the meantime, authorities reported they had recovered the 18 bodies from the scene, while the sole survivor was hospitalized with minor eye injuries. The causes for the accident of the plane that was bound for the city of Pokhara, a common entry point to the Himalayas, are still unknown. In Spain, 129 migrants from the African continent arrived at a port in the Canary Islands after being rescued by maritime authorities. Red Cross sources indicated that the migrants, who are from sub-Saharan origin, were on board a cayuco, or open boat. The sighting was made by a vessel traveling from Portugal to Nigeria after arriving at the Aringinegin dock. 7 of them were referred with serious pathologies to various hospitals. The Border and Coast Guard reported that in 2024, almost 20,000 people have tried to cross the Mediterranean Sea from Africa to reach this archipelago. Ukraine, under the Chinese government's mediation, prepares the conditions for dialogue with Russia to ensure peace. In this regard, Foreign Minister Wang Yi reported that his Ukrainian counterpart, Dmitry Kuleba, confirmed Kiev's readiness to hold talks with Russia. During a bilateral meeting, Kuleba specified that the negotiations must be rational, substantial, and aim at achieving a just and lasting peace. The Ukrainian diplomat also valued as highly positive and significant the active role of China in the promotion of peace and the upholding of international order. In addition to a peace plan, both parties addressed bilateral relations.
China believes that all conflicts must be settled at the negotiating table and all disputes should be resolved by political means. Recently, both Ukraine and Russia have shown their readiness for negotiation.
In the Philippines, the passage of Typhoon Kaemi caused severe flooding that affected the infrastructure and hundreds of thousands of people in the country. According to reports from the Philippine National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, on Monday, Kaemi went from tropical storm to typhoon with winds of up to 150 kilometers per hour and gusts of 185 kilometers per hour while moving towards the northwest territory of the archipelago. The agency also indicated the typhoon affected close to 800,000 people, causing the death of 8 of them so far. The phenomenon has caused heavy rains and floods in several regions. In this context, the Chinese region of Taiwan is preparing for the arrival of Kaemi in the evening hours of this Wednesday. The Central Weather Agency ordered the suspension of classes and on-site work in 21 cities and counties, as well as the cancellation of more than 100 flights. The agency also issued a warning for extremely torrential rains in the mountainous regions. In Ethiopia, death toll rose to 229 after 2 landslides triggered by heavy rains. The Gulf Communication Service reported that 148 men and 81 women are confirmed dead so far. The death toll has risen sharply from the initial toll of 55 recorded on Monday night. According to the Gulf administrator, most of the victims were buried to death while trying to help the inhabitants of a house as rescue teams searched the ground for survivors of another landslide the previous day. We have a fun short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Palestine, at least 11 people were killed by the Israeli army in assaults on the occupied West Bank during the last 24 hours. In this sense, on Wednesday, a 16-year-old teenager was killed after being shot during clashes with Israeli soldiers in Kalandia refugee camp, north of Jerusalem. On the other hand, a large contingent of vehicles of the occupation army also stormed family residences as part of their policy of collective punishment of the Palestinian population. Meanwhile, 6 people were reported wounded by bullets and 2 by beatings by Israeli soldiers, while the rest of the deaths occurred during assaults in the localities of Tubas and Tulkarem. On Wednesday, relatives mourned the death of Abd al-Nasser Sarhan, 23 years old, who was killed by the occupation army during a raid in Tubas in the northern West Bank. In this sense, local media pointed out that the young man was a customs officer and was shot by Israeli troops while on duty without posing any threat. It should be noted that 589 Palestinians, including 142 children, have been killed by Israel since the beginning of the genocidal war in Gaza on October 7th, amidst the intensified incursions in the occupied West Bank. Parallel to the attacks of the occupation army, Israeli settlers intensified their attacks against the Palestinian population in the occupied West Bank. In this way, on Wednesday night, a group of extremist settlers set fire to homes and vehicles in the town of Uwara, south of Nablus. In the meantime, local media denounced that the escalation of attacks comes just days after the International Court of Justice ruled as illegal Israel's decades-long occupation of the West Bank and East Jerusalem. On the other hand, the Israeli occupation army perpetrated several air raids in different areas of the Gaza Strip on the 292nd day of the beginning of the genocidal war against the Palestinian population. In this way, local media confirmed airstrikes on civilian population in Nusayrat refugee camp in the center of the Gaza Strip. In addition, attacks were also reported in Al Bureish camp, Khan Yunis, Gaza City and Rafah, while in the north of the devastated Palestinian territory, 5 people were also killed and several injured after the bombing of a house in Jabalia. In this regard, medical authorities reported that 39,090 Palestinians have been killed since last October 7th.
This is not the first or last time the occupation army has committed crimes against humanity against the Palestinian people. At approximately 11 o'clock, we were informed to evacuate the area, and a house was bombed. After a few minutes, the house was bombed along with the surroundings, and a number of neighboring houses were destroyed to the point that some fragments flew as far as 1 kilometer away.
On Wednesday, the media office of the Gaza government said that Israeli occupation forces have killed 16,000 children in the Gaza Strip since the beginning of the aggressions on October 7th. In this regard, an official statement also stressed that as the death toll is close to 40,000 in Gaza, a total of 34 children have died due to malnutrition, while 17,000 others live without one or both parents. In this context, the U.S. Jewish doctor Mark Perlmutter declared on Sunday during his return to the United States that Israeli snipers deliberately fire on Palestinian children.
Definitively. I have 2 children that I have photographs of that were shot so perfectly in the chest I couldn't put my stethoscope over their heart more accurately, and directly on the side of the head in the same child. No toddler gets shot twice by mistake by the world's best sniper, and they're dead center shots.
In the United States, activists from Jewish Voice for Peace gathered at Capitol Hill calling for an end to arms transfers to Israel ahead of Netanyahu's speech. Hundreds of demonstrators suddenly flooded the rotunda of a congressional office building, staging an unexpected protest against Israel's military actions in Gaza. Capitol Police swiftly designated the area off limits and detained numerous protesters who remained. This demonstration occurred on the eve of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's scheduled address to Congress, an invitation extended by leading lawmakers from both major political parties. Netanyahu's administration has presided over a 9-month genocide in Gaza. In this context, U.S. lawmakers say they will boycott Benjamin Netanyahu's speech in Congress. Several Democrat congressmen announced that they will not attend the legislative chamber in rejection of the presence of the head of the Israeli government. In this regard, Senator Bernie Sanders stated that Netanyahu is a war criminal and that his extremist right-wing government should not receive 1 more cent from the U.S. taxpayers to continue the inhumane destruction of Gaza. Also, Representatives Rashida Tlaib and Senators Patty Murray, Tim Kaine, Chris Van Hollen, among others, will take part in the boycott.
The President Biden has prioritized the safe return of all hostages. Prime Minister Netanyahu has not. He continues to put his own political survival first, above the interests of the people of Israel and the U.S. citizens. Mr. President, I renew my call for an immediate ceasefire and the return of all hostages.
On Wednesday, the French government confirmed that the opening of the Olympic Games will be held on the Seine River. In this regard, President Emmanuel Macron said that the security checks had been carried out after a month of hard work. Furthermore, he assured that the scene planned for the opening ceremony will be maintained, where more than 200 participating delegations will parade along the river waters aboard barges in the presence of more than 300,000 spectators. For their part, the French authorities confirmed they have activated the anti-terrorist perimeter, restricting access to the ceremony area. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.